Thank you, Kweku. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Hi, especially on your grandfather's birthday. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's typical, when invited to speak at a conference, to begin by saying, I'm honored and I'm grateful to be here, and I am very grateful to be here and to be given this opportunity to speak and to be here with such an esteemed group of people. But if I am being honest with myself and with you, I'm also sad to be here at the 21st International AIDS Conference. This is the second time my country of South Africa has hosted. And that's not an honor. And that's not something that we should be proud of. We shouldn't have had to host this conference again. Please, please, please understand that I don't mean to insult anyone here or belittle the extraordinary work that has been done by this amazing community over the years. I have seen the impact of your work firsthand. I have been personally inspired by your commitment to this fight. Countless millions of people would have died without your dedication and your compassion. But I think it is time that we acknowledge that something is terribly wrong. I think it's time we face the truth about the unjust world we live in. The truth is, we have every tool we need to prevent the spread of HIV. Every tool. Condoms, PrEP, PEP, ART, awareness, education. And yet, 2.1 million people, 150 of them children, were infected with HIV last year. In South Africa alone, 180,000 people died of AIDS last year. 2.1 million children and counting have been orphaned by this disease. I could go on for a very, very long time with these statistics we all know so well. But instead, let's ask ourselves, why haven't we beaten this epidemic? Could it be because we don't want to? And by we, I don't mean just the people in this room. I mean humanity, all of us. Because when you ask why, you get the same answers again and again and again. Ending AIDS is too expensive, too daunting, too complicated, too stigmatized, too politicized. And I'm going to stop there because those aren't real answers. They're just excuses. The real reason we haven't beaten this epidemic boils down to one simple fact. We value some lives more than others. We value men more than women, straight love more than gay love, white skin more than black skin, the rich more than the poor, and adults more than adolescents. I know this because AIDS does not discriminate on its own. It has no biological preference for black bodies, for women's bodies, for gay bodies, for youth or the poor. It doesn't single out the vulnerable, the oppressed, or the abused. We single out the vulnerable, the oppressed, and the abused. We ignore them, we let them suffer, and then we let them die. My foundation, CTOP, and a number of our colleagues are calling on today's youth, to the young people, to be the generation that ends this epidemic, to be Gen End It. just want to be clear about what the "it" in that sentence is. It is not just AIDS. It is the culture that condones rape and shames victims into silence. It is the cycle of poverty and violence that traps girls into teen marriages and forces them to sell their bodies to provide for their families. It is the racism that allows the white and the wealthy to exploit the black and the poor and then blame them for their own suffering. It is the homophobia that shames and isolates LGBT youth and keeps them from life-saving healthcare and education. HIV is not just transmitted by sex. It's transmitted by sexism, racism, poverty, and homophobia. And if we're going to end AIDS, we have to cure the disease within our own hearts and within our own minds first. And I believe the young people are the ones who can do it. Young people have always been the drivers of social change, yes. And this generation holds unique promise. After all, this is the generation of Malaya Yousafzai, then Anayara Khatun. This is the generation that is shattering taboos, redefining old notions of gender, sexuality, and racial justice. Not long ago, right here in South Africa, I watched a young LGBT activist challenge a bishop to accept all people into the church. Her courage and her conviction was so inspiring to me. And I know that her confidence comes from caring adults who create safe spaces to talk about issues without any judgment, who educate and empower young people to take control of their bodies and ownership of their futures. You are the world's leading researchers, the grant makers, medical professionals, and program implementers. The work you do is vital. It has changed the course of this epidemic, but it will not end it, at least not on its own. Yes, we have to all play our parts, and we have to work harder and faster and smarter than ever before, but it will not be our generation that will end AIDS. It will be the next generation. I believe the single most important thing each of us can do is to leave here tonight and to connect with a young person. Listen, truly listen to what she has to say. Give her a seat to the table. Let her be part of the conversation, and let's make sure our work reflects her input and her voice. The solution to the epidemic isn't just in our laboratories and in offices or in conferences like this. It is in our communities, and it's in our schools, and it's in our streets, where one smart choice or a helping hand can mean the difference between life and death. Nelson Mandela said, "Young people are capable, when aroused, of bringing down the towers of oppression and raising the banners of freedom." If we support our young people, if we give them the confidence and the space to speak out against bigotry and injustice, if we take the time to listen and empower them, they will end this epidemic. In closing, I really would like to thank you, all of you, for your amazing work and your commitment to this extraordinary movement. This assembly has truly been inspiring, and I'm going to say it again. I am incredibly grateful to be here. But with all due respect, I hope we don't keep meeting like this. Since the first International AIDS Conference in 1985, we have been counting up, all the way to 21. Now it's time for us to start counting down. We have set a goal to end AIDS by 2030. And there are 4 more international AIDS conferences between now and then. They must be our last. Thank you.